3.5 minutes. 3.5. Today's topic is going to be about Seventh-Day Adventist disbelief in hell. Okay, I do have everything synced at this point. And we will be starting in about 1.5 minutes. So enjoy the harp music. One minute till show start. And how many Adventists are in the room right now? About 15 seconds left. Need to test the chat. If there's anyone out there, by all means, chime in. All right, so we're going to get started now. I am Dre-Z. I am an anti-Adventist. My background is I was in that cult, and yes, in a future broadcast, I will in fact go over how I think they are in fact a cult. So, I am going to put the main, well, let me go back to the combination. So today's topic is going to be about the disbelief in hell that the Seventh-Day Adventists have. This is the one thing that I think they got right. Of all the, however you want to call them, religions, denominations, what have you, hell is actually a construct that religions use to keep you in line. Pay us money, or you're going to go spend an eternity in hell. A burning terror, painful hell. Well, according to the Seventh-Day Adventists, which can be, you can trace this in writing to their prophet, Ellen G. White, she does not believe in hell. She thinks it's Satan's propaganda. But we will cover that because I do have a slide deck for you. So let's get to the slide deck. So the Seventh-Day Adventists don't believe in hell. And like I said earlier, this is one thing I do believe they got right. So if you want to track down a Seventh-Day Adventist belief, you have to go by what is in their propaganda. Their chief propagandist, who was one of several people responsible for the birth of this cult, is a woman named Ellen G. White. She suffered traumatic brain injury as a child, and yes, I will do a follow-on where I basically cover this using her own writing once again, and that is my basic premise here. And Adventists, whether it's inconvenient or not, cannot duck away from this. According to Belief 18, which you can find on Adventist.org, they basically say she speaks with prophetic authority. Now, if you look up what a prophet is, or you look up, say, prophetic authority says it's the authority a prophet has. So when they duck out and try to say, oh, she was just a messenger from God, not a prophet, well, then you can't say she spoke with prophetic authority. And as a matter, well, you know what? I'm going to leave this to another broadcast. Let's stay restricted to the topic of hell. So, to me, their authority figure is Ellen G. White, and you kind of have to go by her when you're talking about Adventist beliefs. So on the next slide, I am going to keep this down to one book. It's called The Great Controversy. It covers many topics, hell being one of them, but you can find a lot of these passages in other books. Everyone called her a prolific writer. And she was, except for the fact there's two things I disagree with. I don't think she wrote the bulk of her books. I think once money started rolling in, they had ghostwriters that would take what she said and kind of write many of her books. She did write several books, life sketches and early writings, from what I understand, she wrote by hand. But what you will find is many of her writings are repeated throughout her entire series of books. But I'm going to stay restricted to The Great Controversy because I started my journey of discovery after I was an Adventist. But I started with early writings, Steps to Christ, and then I went to life sketches to track her history. But The Great Controversy is the book that she is most well known for. So we're going to start with, there is an entire chapter called The First Great Deception. You can read it for yourself, but basically what she's saying here, that it's use the word repugnant. It's a horrible belief that God, who on one hand you want to paint as being this loving, merciful deity, and for one brief moment in life, 75 years average that a human is on the planet. So for whatever sins they commit, that you're going to send them to hell for eternity. So this is basically what this passage is referring to, that, if you look at life sketches, early writings, she does talk about angsting over the premise of a hell. So this is why she spent some time on this topic and study, and is it study or was it visions? Well, how often did she suffer epileptic seizures? But topic for another time. So in this slide, is what I basically just talked about. For the sins of a brief earthly life, you're going to suffer in eternal torment. I think George Carlin did a sequence on that. And I don't know, maybe he studied her and came to his routine where he says, I'm going to send you to hell for eternal, fiery, torturous eternity, but I love you. And this is basically what she's saying in this passage right here. Once again, this comes from the First Great Deception chapter of The Great Controversy. Yeah, my little joke here is I only coveted my neighbor's ass once, and that is one of the 10 Commandments. And they do say ass, but it of course means mule or donkey or whatever you want to call it. So in the eternity for a single sin, she's basically saying, what benefit is to God that he wants to watch people live in eternal misery? Because they're going to be somewhere, wherever you say hell is. And I don't recall reading this anywhere, but my personal take on this is, seriously, you want a universe of perfection, but you're going to reserve this one spot that is burning eternally and people are screaming. That to me is not a vision of perfection. So I am no denomination, I am non-religious, but to all of you religions out there, shame on you for believing this nonsense. Because if you actually read the Bible and everything, it's like, where does this come out that God believes in torture? Although if you look at the stories, let's take the flood for instance. This is the equivalent of you being a parent and you have a kid or a group of kids and you decide you're going to drown them because they disobeyed you. Well, you and I would go to jail. But anyways, so she's basically saying in here that what kind of a nasty creature who was painted as loving and he sacrificed his own child. Yeah, isn't that funny? He has this thing about making children suffer. You can see why a lot of these beliefs were made, is to keep people in line, because nothing scares more than punishment, right? That's the whole point of why you administer punishment. So this is what she's saying, and there's the burning bush. Good, you're all suffering in this burning house for eternity. All right, next slide here. And this is yet another point. I mean, say what you will about Adventists, but from a logical perspective, when they got it right, and like I said, this to me is one of those few times they actually got it right. So what she's basically saying here is that after man sinned and was driven out of the Garden of Eden, he put a pair of angels out there armed with flaming swords. And it's like, but this is one of the illogical things I will point out. Once again, if you are a perfect God, a loving God, and your angels share all of that, why are these guys running around with swords, much less flaming swords? That's just, to me, it doesn't make, it's incongruent. But anyways, what she says is they never partook of the tree of life, or after the eating from the tree of good and evil, knowledge of good and evil, that they lost their eternal life. But what she's saying here is man can't even live forever because he did not partake from the tree of life. So how on earth would a sinner live forever in eternal torment? And like I said, when they get it right, they got it right. And this is one of the few things they did get right. The whole premise of you're gonna burn in eternity. All right, so we're gonna end up on the last slide. This is not a particularly long stream broadcast. I did not intend it to be. I am trying to build up my my comfort with doing this stuff live. And of course there's going to, because of the topics, in Adventists, I don't know how much experience the rest of the world has with them. When they get very uncomfortable or they feel insulted, which happens at the drop of a pin. I mean, these people, they're the snowflake religion. Everything offends them. And when they get offended, boy, do they come at you quite contrary to their own beliefs. They're supposed to, be Christ-like and turn the other cheek, but no, they will go for the jugular. And just because you disagreed with them, you're horrible, you're this, you're that. This is, to me, when I left that cult. This is why I never went into another denomination or religion, because you can observe this in every religion, that despite what their religion says about behavior, they're going to act as nasty as they can, and somehow it's justified. Somehow, well, God is going to burn us in hell eternally, so he believes in nailing you. And it's like, well, how you kind of disagree with your God is you're basically saying he can't do his own job on the planet, that somehow you are the one who is going to carry out his will. I mean, how much arrogance can that be? All right, so let's cover the slide. So this is the part where I was talking earlier about propaganda, Satan's propaganda. And this is my basis for saying that a belief in hell and those who talk about hell is spreading Satan's propaganda. So that she's basically saying here that, Satan wants people to believe in hell. That this is how people will come to the conclusion that God is a horrible being. That, once again, for the sins of a brief life, that you're going to live in eternity in pain and suffering, and it's just contrary to that whole premise. So if you're saying here that Satan told his angels, hey, go out there, inculcate the belief that you're immortal, and because you're immortal, you're going to be punished. You're going to be punished eternally in pain and suffering. That's propaganda, plain and simple. And if you believe in hell and you spread that, you're spreading Satan's propaganda. And that ends the presentation for today. For those who joined, thanks for enduring it. And for Adventists who joined, thanks for not attacking me, which has been my experience even when I was one of you and I disagreed. Boy, did you people come at me. This is why I'm not part of your cult anymore. So I am going to bid you adieu, and not sure. I should probably do this as regularly scheduled. The last one I did as a joke, kind of on Saturday. But be that as it may, you people enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and I say adieu, bye bye, auf Wiedersehen.